and thanks for listening. I'm Steve Scheinman, president of the Skaneateles Festival Board of Directors, and this is the SkanFest podcast, an interview series for the Skaneateles Festival. We are a summer concert series based in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York during the month of August. This year, we are presenting our 46th season. On the podcast, we spend time getting to know our visiting artists who travel the world making music of the highest caliber. The Calidore String Quartet is recognized as one of the world's foremost interpreters of a vast chamber music repertoire. For more than a decade, the Calidore has enjoyed performances and residencies in the world's major venues and festivals, released multiple critically acclaimed recordings, and won numerous awards. The Los Angeles Times described the musicians as astonishing. They're playing shockingly deep, approaching the kind of sublimity other quartets spend a lifetime searching. They've appeared in prestigious venues across the world, including Lincoln Center, Carnegie Hall, the Kennedy Center, London's Wigmore Hall, Berlin's Concerthaus, Amsterdam's Concertgebouw, Brussels Beaux-Arts, and at major festivals such as the BBC Proms, Verbier, Ravinia, and now SkanFest. I'm excited to have all four members of the quartet here today. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Thanks for having us.
I can't wait to get into the quartet stuff, but we want to start with the basics. Would you please introduce yourselves, each of you tell us where you come from, how your individual journeys in music began.
So my name's Jeff Myers. I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. And I think we all started around the age of 5. Both my parents were instrumental music teachers in Columbus City schools. And I always enjoyed playing chamber music, and I ended up meeting these guys at the Colburn Music Conservatory in Los Angeles.
My name's Jeremy Berry. I'm the violist of the quartet. As Jeff said, I also started playing on the viol, I started playing when I was 5 years old, which is a little on the unusual side. A lot of people start on the violin and then switch over later. It's just something I always did growing up. I studied with the same teacher, Betsy Stewenwalker, for 13 years until I went to my undergrad at Juilliard and then later Colburn, where we all met. It was just always a consistent, amazing part of my life growing up, being able to play chamber music with my friends, play in orchestras, some solo stuff here and there. And I've just always been doing it and never looked back.
My name is Estelle Choi. I'm the cellist of the Calidore String Quartet, and I'm originally from Calgary, Alberta, and I grew up with a bunch of siblings who also played music, so it was just echoing within the small confines of my house from day one. I have 2 siblings who are pianists and another brother who's a cellist, so it sort of made sense for me to do this. And I still enjoy it to this day.
My name is Ryan Meehan, and I play the violin, and no member of my family is remotely musically inclined, but my mom heard that it's good for kids to listen to Mozart to develop their brain when they're young, and so she thought, oh, well, what if he plays Mozart? So my public elementary school in Fort Myers, Florida, which is where I grew up, had a Suzuki violin program, but only enough violins for a certain number of students. So my name had to be put into a lottery, and it got drawn out of a hat. And so my mom told me I'm playing violin, and I think my question was, what is a violin? Just kind of kept plugging away at it. I had to be prodded a little bit in the beginning, but eventually became my passion.
Well, our gain. So tell us how the quartet formed.
Okay. Wow, they trusted me with this one. Impressive. So actually, it started when we were at Colburn. Stella and I actually were playing for class credit. We had to fulfill a chamber music requirement each semester, and we didn't hate playing with one another. We actually enjoyed it quite a lot. And the other 2, we liked it so much that we wanted to continue and take it a little more seriously. And at that point, we scared the other 2 off. And Jeremy joined us, and then shortly thereafter, Ryan joined us. And actually, I've known Ryan for quite some time before we were at Colburn. So he went to high school in Chicago, and I was in Columbus, Ohio, and we were in competing string quartets. And so we met at the St. Paul chamber music competition and also at the Fish-Off competition. And we finally talked to one another after our groups didn't make the finals at the Fish-Off competition, and we've been friends ever since.
And where does the name Calidore come from?
Well, finding a quartet name is surprisingly difficult. It took quite some time. There are a couple of stories, so depending on the day that you ask us, but I will give you both of them because I'm feeling so generous. So we're actually looking under every stone, trying to find inspiration for the name. I began looking at poem titles, and Calidore happened to just be on this long list of Keats poems. And I just liked the ring of it. The poem itself is about this knight, and his name is Sir Calidore. He has this tremendous respect for nature. And yeah, I don't know, it had a nice ring. We then have turned it into this other story, which is that Cali, we were formed in California. So you take Cali and Doré, which is golden in French, Golden State, and that's sort of how we put those two together to make a kind of second story out of the name.
So the second is kind of a justification for the first.
Precisely.
It was also recommended to us by the great violinist Arnold Steinhardt from the Guarneri Quartet that every time someone asks us this question, we should make up a different story in its entirety and see how long it takes to get back to us. So we'll let you guys decide if that's the real one or not.
So it's like sonar. You'll be measuring how quickly
Yeah.
Are you all original members?
Yeah. Like Jeff was saying, we added sort of piece by piece over a short period of time, and it's been the four of us for the last 15 years or so.
And do you have any early memories of experiences together? Maybe memorable performances?
We tend to remember the things that went wrong more than like getting lost on a train in the middle of our first European tour. But
yeah, there's a point where we weren't totally sure what country we were in, I think, for a little bit there. Do you want to say?
We just finished a tour in Italy, and we were going to Germany for the ARD competition in Munich, and we had to spend a week kind of beforehand to prepare, and we were going to my now wife's family home, and we took a train exactly the wrong direction. We had taken our shoes off, we were relaxing, and after about 2 hours on the train, they said, "This is the end, you have to get off," in German. And so we didn't really understand, so we just kind of followed everyone else, and we found ourselves in this little village in the middle of nowhere in Bavaria, and we had to wait till the next day. I was very sick. We had to find a hotel. There was a payphone that I used because we didn't have cell phones. Yeah, it was just kept going. And the next day we said, okay, we have this. And we took 5 hours the train the right way. We got to the stop. We waited for the doors to open. And then the train kept moving because the door stayed shut, because we didn't realize in Europe you have to push the button to open the doors. So that was a bonding moment for all of us. Yeah, then we ended up in Switzerland.
And we found out why hotels are priced the way they are. We took our suitcases down the cobblestone streets, and we finally found a hotel, and we thought, wow, this is very reasonably priced. And we settled into our rooms, and we found out why it was so reasonable. It was right next to the town clock tower, and it went off every hour, every half hour. And yeah, I think
really great.
It was great, yeah.
So you ended up in Switzerland intentionally?
Oh, unintentionally. And then, they had to drive probably half an hour to come find us. Yeah.
So how long has the quartet been together?
It's been about 15 years, yeah.
The fall of 2010.
And were there any critical moments in your development that you think were seminal?
We're still waiting for it. But
I feel like developing both the quartet playing as well as the career is it's kind of like managing lots of little mistakes and turning them into positives. I think both in terms of discovering how to play with one another, as well as, I mean, at the end of the day, when you're starting a quartet, it's sort of just like figuring out a crash course in how to run a small business at the same time. And as people that weren't trained in that, inevitably, as probably even someone that is trained in business, you end up making a lot of mistakes, and you just try to catalog them, learn from them, develop protocols, figure out who has different strengths and weaknesses, how to work around that, and just try to turn every little thing into as much of a positive as you can. I mean, even from the rehearsal standpoint, we rehearse extremely differently and hopefully a lot more efficiently now than we did in 2010. But you only figure that out by trying everything and trying to learn from all the little things.
Well, to quote another musician, Billy Joel says, your mistakes are the only things you can truly call your own.
Darn.
That's good.
I don't want them.
Are there any figures you look to for inspiration?
Sure. I mean, we've been extraordinarily lucky to get to work with some of the giants in the string quartet world. At Colburn, we got to work with Arnold Steinhardt and briefly with Martin and Clive from the Tokyo Quartet. And then in New York, when we moved to New York a little over a decade ago to work with the Emerson Quartet at Stony Brook, and also got to work with David Finkel as he just had left the quartet. And we also, for a brief period of time, were traveling to Madrid, Spain, to the Reina Sofia School to work with Günter Pickler of the Alban Berg Quartet. So we've been pretty spoiled to get to work with these people that you listen to on records and CDs growing up, and then it turns out they're real people.
That's impressive.
And they're some of the most kind, generous people you'll ever meet. And so we feel a deep responsibility to continue and further that knowledge that they've bestowed upon us.
So could you reflect on quartet playing as opposed to performing solos or performing with an orchestra? Is there something about the quartet that is particularly special?
Well, I think unlike solo, you really can't just do a lot of your own thing. It's about finding this balance, and that was something we work on still now, but especially in the early days, about establishing finding room for your own voice, but then also trying to sometimes come to a compromise with other voices, or trying to interpret or think ahead to what a voice is trying to convey and how can you support that. So it's very multifaceted. And of course, this happens in solo music as well, but not on the level or with the kind of insistency that's demanded in playing string quartet. And also, I think on a personal level, and probably you all feel the same, like it's allowed us to get to know the great composers, Beethoven, Mozart, Hindemith, the whole range through their quartets in a much more intimate way. Played more string quartets by Beethoven than any solo music by Beethoven that I've ever had a chance to do. So really feeling like we understand them and their language, and we kind of figured it out together. So
there's something about the energy of four people coming together when they're like really on the same page, and how like explosive that can be. I remember there was a performance when at the Aspen Music Festival when the Takash Quartet, they played Schubert Death and the Maiden. I had been looking forward to this concert for like months, and I got my tickets ahead of time, and I was very excited for it. But anyway, to hear them on stage, just four people, the amount of energy and the excitement in the room, it was as if I've never even seen that from a full symphony orchestra, like the energy in the room, and to just have like a slice of that and to get to do that on stage is really a dream come true.
I can believe that. Yes. So there's a huge catalog of so-called standard repertoire for string quartet, and you do a ton of commissions and collaborations with contemporary composers. How do you handle programming as an ensemble? Maybe you could also talk about how you approach new collaborations.
Yeah, we're very blessed with, as you were saying, just an enormous quantity of quality. that's a weird way of putting that, but like most of the great classical composers wrote some of their greatest music, in some of their cases, a lot of their greatest music for the string quartet. It's a genre that stands in its own right along with symphonies and operas, and that when composers wrote for it, they really stepped up and brought their A game. And I think part of it was like they knew they were getting kind of compared, going toe to toe with some of the greats that came before them. And so as a starting point, we're just really fortunate, even at this point, after 15 years, that there are still some of the great standards that we haven't gone around to yet. So whenever we go to programming, we still have plenty of bucket list pieces that we're like, okay, how could we work this or that into a program? Like you said, we're generally commissioning at least one new piece each season, sometimes a couple. To zoom out a bit, we like to, as any good musician would do, you must compare your music to a good meal, right? So a lot of times with programming, we try to find things that are really different, that might have a similar theme, but that offer a very, very different listening experience. Of course, every once in a while, we'll do an all Beethoven, an all Mozart, an all Bach, et cetera, et cetera. But generally speaking, so we'll find usually like a substantial second half piece that we know we've really wanted to play. And then, okay, we have that as our anchor. How can we spin out a theme with the rest of the program? Maybe it's a program of all Viennese composers. Maybe it's a program of North American sounds or composers that all had a similar life event happen to them or this and that. So something that from stage we can communicate to the audience and spin a story that feels like we're taking them along with us. And then, of course, sometimes the concert presenter will see our list of things and just say, we want those 3 pieces, and we make that work to the best of our ability as well. But we try to always start by creating a narrative and a story with our program, so that we at least have that option to give.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Beethoven has been a big focus for you this past season. You've done concerts of his full catalog of string quartets at the University of Delaware and in New York City. You're also completing an ambitious recording of the full quartets. Would you talk about that and maybe tie that into a discussion of your programming here at the festival, since you're performing Beethoven in your concert this week?
I think for most quartets, it's the pinnacle goal to not only learn all the Beethoven string quartets, but also to record them. And we're very fortunate to have done both, and have had the opportunity to play the cycle a number of times, all 16 of the incredible string quartets. And I think it's really important as a string quartet player, as a string quartet ensemble, to tackle those works, because they sort of expand not just technically as players, but I think emotionally, tapping into this very nuanced musical language is so important in terms of expanding who you are as an artist. And Beethoven is just the perfect example of somebody who wrote in such a way that the music can never be boring or stale, no matter how many times you play it. It surprises me time and time again how much I find it can be a Beethoven string quartet that we've played 50 times already, but you're still finding small things within the music that you never knew before or discovered before. So I think the whole process of learning them and then of recording them has been really transformative for us as a group. When we go back and listen to the recordings, they're snapshots in our lives, and I think it's fair to say we're quite proud of having put that all together. The recording process began during the pandemic, when we felt that this was maybe the time to hunker down and really devote ourselves to putting all of those pieces down on tape. And a few years later, we do have them all out, and the box set, I believe, is coming out
November.
in November, yeah, which we're really excited about.
That's great. And you're doing one of the Beethoven quartets here at the concert. So can you talk about that program? Is that a well-balanced meal?
Good question. It's a meal I wouldn't mind being a part of. But yeah, it's kind of it's a fun combination of Beethoven and Opus 127, really one of the great hearty, the beginning of his later period of writing where he's sort of chucked everything to the wind and is like, I'm just going to do things my own way now, totally blow up the form. A lot of new and innovative things that really no one at the time, I think, had any idea what the heck he was doing anymore, except for him. And even today, we're still trying to figure it out. And then we actually traveled to Los Angeles from that and play a great new piece that John Williams actually arranged for us from his soundtrack of Lincoln. It's just like a beautiful little gem of a work that starts with an awesome solo from our rock star cellist Estelle here. And then we go to Korngold for his third string quartet, where we actually really view sort of, or attribute partially that like golden age of Hollywood sound of orchestral playing, in part to Korngold and his when he immigrated over to the United States and he was heavily involved in writing soundtracks. He really developed this luscious, beautiful, especially in the string writing, as we're partial to ourselves and talking about. And there's a lot of that infused into this work. He had become a U.S. citizen, and he goes back to writing. This is his third string quartet, so he's returning to writing string quartets. And there are actually a lot of quotes from his movies, sort of scattered throughout the piece. While it's still derived from the classical form, he's kind of interspersing all sorts of fun stuff in it. His quartets are really, really hard. That's the only reason we can think of that his music isn't played more often than it is, because his three quartets absolutely belong in the standard repertoire. I think there was maybe a little bit of at the time, I think people looked down on him a little bit as like copping out, so to speak, as to moving and writing in Hollywood. But his music has always maintained quality and beauty, and it's just really fun to play, at least once you can kind of untangle the technical stuff.
Well, really looking forward to it. Are there any other upcoming projects that you'd like to tell us about?
We have a kind of disc exploring the sounds that create American classical music and the kind of diverse sources that came together to make an American sound, and is explored through the medium of the string quartet. And that's a disc that we recorded already, and that's the Korngold is actually part of it, and the Williams are part of it. And it's going to come out next year for the 250th celebration of America. And it also includes a wonderful quartet by Wynton Marsalis, his first string quartet at the Octoroon Balls, and also Barber's string quartet, which has the famous Adagio for strings.
Well, thank you very much. The Calidore String Quartet is with us for a concert on Thursday, August 7th at the First Presbyterian Church of Skaneateles. You can learn more about SkanFest events and buy tickets at skanfest.org. Thanks to you four, and thank you for listening.